With its huge size, China spans all of the Earth's 4 main climate zones. Its dramatic geography also gives it a variety of subclimates. Topographically, from the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau to its eastern plains, China's land surface descends like a 3-step staircase. The canvas of this land encompasses nearly all possible landscapes and scenery that can be found in the world. Ever-ascending snow-capped mountains, long rivers stretching thousands of kilometers, a northern wonderland of snow and ice, the beautifully shaped Danxia and Yadung landforms. On this land, mountains are constantly on the move. Rivers run unseen underground. Wastelands resemble the surface of another planet, and ancient oceans have risen to the roof of the world. Shifts in the Earth's crust and the elements act in tandem. Together, these great forces of nature are constantly changing the face of the Earth by carving out magnificent landscapes. Nestled among the mountains of northern Sichuan province is Beichuan County. It was once home to 160,000 people in 40,000 households living ordinary lives. But on May the 12th, 2008, enormous forces pent up deep underground were released. In minutes, the county was turned into a silent monument. Beichuan was the county worst affected by the 2008 Wenchuan earthquake. This disaster is what the people of China will never forget. From time to time, nature reminds humanity of its overwhelming power. China is among the countries most at risk from geological disasters. Nature is cruel. Though its creative power is miraculous, its destructive force is catastrophic. Frequent natural disasters have shaped the mindset of Chinese people. Tough and tenacious, they have the will to overcome misfortune over and over again and accumulate the wisdom needed for future recurrence. Just as with the phoenix of Chinese mythology, destruction is often followed by rebirth. As a result of crustal movements, a group of mountains in southwest China have formed a folded landform, with valleys and ridges lined up in parallel from north to south. This complex is known as Hongduan Mountains. Mount Gongga, the highest peak of this region with a height of 7,556 meters, has earned the title King of Sichuan Mountains. It is where monsoons from the Pacific and Indian Oceans meet with each other. The annual precipitation in high-altitude areas here is as much as 3,000 millimeters, with snow piled up as high as a 10-story building. Mount Gongga is home to the world's largest glacier in terms of the vertical drop, with a total descent of about 4,000 meters. Like a mighty frozen river, time seems to be standing still on its surface. Seemingly at a standstill, the giant cascade of ice is actually flowing, albeit very slowly. There are 76 glaciers around Mount Gongga, together locking up nearly 70% as much fresh water as the Three Gorges Reservoir. This makes the region an important water source for China's southwest. Among China's glaciers, Gongga's move the fastest, with a speed of more than 200 meters per year. The huge force of the ice can split rocks, reshaping the landscape year after year. In valleys at between 2,000 and 4,000 meters above sea level are rocks which have been swept down the mountain by collapsing glaciers. Exposed to the air, they become home to bright orange Trentifolia gelethus algae. This plant species is extremely sensitive to its environment. It will quickly wither and turn black if it is removed. The humidity and unpolluted rocks here are suited to its growth. It multiplies rapidly and envelops rocks in orange-red, dusting the valley bottom with a blanket of rust color. China has a total of 48,571 glaciers. Every year, millions of tons of meltwater from them feeds its many rivers as an important source of fresh water. In effect, they're giant water towers on which many ecosystems depend. Satellite imagery compiled over the past decade, however, clearly shows the glaciers are retreating at a rate of 20 meters per year. Global warming is changing the climate. China's inland regions are seeing different patterns of wind and rain. Northwest China is known for its dry and arid climate, caused by a lack of moist airflow. But in the midst of the stretching yellow Gobi Desert lies the green fertile Yili River Valley. The towering Tian Shan Mountains leave an opening here in Yili. Water vapor makes it here all the way from the Atlantic Ocean. To arrive here, moisture-filled monsoon wind from the Atlantic Ocean blows 5,000 kilometers across Eurasia and advances to the Yili River Valley, where it's intercepted by high mountains. The moisture condenses on windward slopes, making the valley a super rain collector. The rainfall revitalizes the valley. Along its bottom, the Yili River itself rushes down from the high mountains. Melting snow on the mountains forms streams which flow down grassy slopes before eventually converging into the main stream of the Ili River, the largest inland river in China by water volume. The abundant water has turned the Ili River Valley into a lush landscape beyond the Great Wall. Forests of Asian spruce blanket the mountain slopes at altitudes of between 1,400 and 2,700 meters. As the largest tree to be found in China's Great Northwest, the Asian spruce can grow to a height of about 60 meters, with a trunk diameter of up to 2 meters. Spruce trees are hardy survivors and not picky about the soil they grow in. Their roots can penetrate into tiny rock crevices and deep into the earth. A single tree needs a large amount of water to maintain growth. The root system of a full-grown adult spruce can store up to 2.5 tons of water. So each spruce is like a mini reservoir in the valley. Water in the trees evaporates and rises as vapor to become clouds and rain, which in turn contributes to the complete water cycle. This river valley, surrounded by the dry desert in northwest China, has seen an annual precipitation of 700 millimeters, comparable to that of the eastern plains. The abundant water boosts the growth of vegetation and turns the valley into a green world. At the feet of the Asian spruce-covered mountains is a stretch of upland meadow. Watered by plentiful rain, the lush grassland supports millions of cattle and sheep, an important pasture in Xinjiang. Manure from cattle and sheep acts to fertilize the grass, forming an important link in the ecological cycle. Pilobalaceae, a family of fungi in the Mucorales order, grow on fresh cattle and sheep manure. Dung of herbivores is the perfect breeding ground for them. Their life cycle includes a spectacular mechanism for spore dispersal, involving swelling below their sporangium, the receptacle in which their spores are formed. Drawing in moisture from the surrounding air, pressure builds up in the swelling until it ruptures, catapulting the sporangium far away. Pilobalaceae hold the record for being the fastest accelerating organisms on Earth. The speed with which they eject their sporangia is faster than the human eye can see. After settling on grass, the spores will be eaten by cows or sheep, passing out of the animal's digestive system in the dung they will germinate on. In effect, Pilobalaceae are decomposers that can take in nutrients from dung and disperse them across the grassland. With the mountains of the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau blocking water vapor from the ocean, the predominant color of northwest China is a dead yellow. Yet even in the most monotonous of landscapes, such as the region's Gobi Desert, nature can still offer a visual feast. These colorful hills are a work of art, painted by the invisible hands of nature. The forces that created the Himalayas have left indelible marks on China's northwest. Long ago here, plate movements caused structural deformation of different rock strata, which were tilted, crumpled, and lifted up. After eons of weathering and water erosion, the uplifted strata were shaped into today's formations. Layers exposed by crustal movements taking place over hundreds of thousands of years are still visible. This unusual landform is known locally as ghost face dancia. Red-colored sandstones have been weathered into eerie-looking forms. It's as if the souls of ancient mythical creatures have been sealed in them. If you want to experience the surface of Mars, you may not need a spaceship. Walking across this strange landscape in northwest China can give you an extraterrestrial experience. 75 million years ago, there was a lake here. The lake dried and its bed rose, slowly pushed upwards by geological forces. As it did so, it was sculpted into unusual shapes by the wind. Seldom traversed by humans, this scenery has changed little since humans first appeared on the planet. Flanked on either side by the more elevated terrains of the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau and Mongolian Plateau, the Hexi corridor along the northern edges of the Chilean Mountains is a passage for wind. Everything here evolves along with the flow of air. These streamlined protuberances carved out by wind and dust are called yardangs. When seen from above, they resemble the hull of a boat. This area of yardang formations, covering 21,000 square kilometers in China's northwest, is rare because it features yardangs on water. Geology tells us this was originally a lake which receded, leaving the yardangs to be carved out from its arid bed. Millions of years later, water returned. Unusual landforms like this are faithful records of nature's creative power. However this vast terrain is formed, be it dry desert, sparkling lakes or cracked mud, it will always contain traces of its ancient past. The erosion of wind, the flow of water, the rising and falling of the Earth's crust over the passage of time, the radiation of the sun and the moon, in non-stop silence, the forces of nature are shaping the Earth. September sees nature put on its most colorful show in the Qinghai Mountains, northeast China's winter wonderland. Autumn here is a time of plenty for residents of the forest, offering up an abundant supply of pine cones and mushrooms. For chipmunks, this is a busy time, making hay while the sun shines. Of course, the food of others often seems more delicious. The thief has been repelled. Now it's time to enjoy a quiet dinner. The water in rivers is getting colder at this time of year. With freezing weather approaching, animals are feasting greedily to build up fat reserves. After meeting with cold air from Siberia, airborne moisture from the ocean condenses into ice crystals, which grow until they become snowflakes. Soon the colors and bustle of autumn give way to a hushed, snow-blanketed white. The Qinghai Mountains are known as a winter wonderland for good reason. The wilderness here is covered with ice and snow for almost 6 months every year. As winter deepens, nighttime temperatures can fall to -40 degrees Celsius. With the days short in length, animals that do not hibernate reduce unnecessary motion. Everything seems to be slowing down to a halt. In the midst of silence, the formation of rime ice is taking place. Special conditions must be satisfied to create this natural wonder. The air must be filled with small supercooled water droplets, which in this location are supplied by hot springs in the forest. The water droplets freeze almost instantly when they come into contact with branches at sub-zero temperatures. Suddenly, all the trees around the springs are decorated with transparent and graceful hangings. Northeast China's Qinghai Mountains tower against wind and snow in the bleak winter. Outwardly frosty, in fact, they have a burning heart. Within the range, the highest peak is a stratovolcano that erupted as recently as 1903. Before then, the eruption that occurred between the year 1199 and 1201 was one of the largest anywhere in recorded history. This eruption resulted in lava flows, landslides, and burnt forests. Debris thrown up has been found as far away as Japan, 1,100 kilometers away. Nara Prefecture in Japan recorded that ash rained down for 2 consecutive days. Much of the volcano's summit was vaporized. The crater or caldera left behind filled with rainwater to become today's Tianqi Lake. Today, the volcano shows no sign of its explosive past. Those living around it hope it will not be roused from its slumber. In the dead of winter, the land is sleeping. With the approach of spring, however, the snow begins to melt. Some of the first shoots to emerge from beneath the melting snow are these golden yellow flowers, commonly known as pheasant's eye, showing off their bright color and unyielding spirit. As the snow and ice recede, the pure white of winter is replaced by rich colors. The land is waking up in a vibrant chorus of spring. Streams and rivers have broken free of their shackles of ice. Their water nourishes and revives the thawing earth. As Lao Tzu, the great Chinese philosopher, said, "Water is the softest and most yielding substance. Yet nothing is better than water for overcoming the hard and rigid." It is water, indeed, that carves out landscapes. Water is the soul of Guangxi in the south of China, adding a poetic touch to its picturesque scenery. The average annual precipitation here totals more than 1,500 millimeters, with spring and summer seeing more rain than the rest of the year. From April to September is Guangxi's flood season, when a total of 34,000 kilometers of rivers and streams rush through a drainage area of over 8,000 square kilometers. Flowing west to east, some of this water sculpts the landscape. All of it heads towards the sea. Straddling the border between China and Vietnam, the Hien Falls are some of the most spectacular in the world. Cascades of over 100 meters in width fall in parallel through a height difference of 60 meters. As it flows through the drops, the river explodes into roaring majesty. The karst landscape here is made of limestone, which is soft and relatively easily eroded by water. Over thousands of years, water has sculpted it into spectacular shapes. Tall and lush peaks tower over the landscape. Hundreds of millions of years ago, the region lay under a vast ocean. As a consequence, the calcium carbonate shells or skeletons of marine life were deposited in huge quantities. Later, the Earth's crust rose out of the water before what was once the sea bottom underwent dramatic changes. South China has a warm and humid climate with long wet seasons. Rainfall dissolved the carbonates to sculpt the land into its present shapes. Looking at it now, it's hard to imagine it once being the bottom of an ocean. China is blessed with a coastline of 18,000 kilometers and sea area under its jurisdiction of about 3 million square kilometers. It's also home to more than 6,500 coastal islands. The best way to see the sea is, of course, to go below its surface. So far, some 2 million marine species have been discovered and recorded by humans. The number is just 1/3 of the total for land-dwelling species, and certainly far less than what is actually there. Today, we can observe and analyze the chemical composition of stars billions of light years away. But we have very limited knowledge of the vast oceans that cover 70% of the Earth's surface. The average depth of them is 4 kilometers, and humans have only explored about 5% of their total area. Deep down, they are cold, almost completely dark, and uncharted. The ocean is a vast resource, offering up food, hydrocarbons, and also minerals in its waters. Even where the sea has long receded, some of these minerals are still accessible. Millions of years ago, a continental collision between the Indian plate and the Eurasian plate pushed up the Qinghai-Tibet Plateau. In some areas, seawater was left on low-lying land, forming what are today salt lakes. Their water is covered with a thick crust of salt which looks like ice and never disappears. Its thickness can range between 2 meters and 8 meters, strong enough for a truck to drive safely across. The salt reserve of Shaka Salt Lake in Qinghai amounts to 448 million tons, making it a natural treasure trove of inorganic salt. Humans learned early to get what they need from it. Even in the 1950s, when physical labor prevailed, daily salt production here could reach 6 tons. Salt has been harvested here for more than 3,000 years. The development of other mineral resources such as lithium and potassium is also facilitating China's new energy sector. It is a gift from nature. A survey of this vast land reveals not only its present state, but also the geological and climatic forces that have shaped it. Today, human activity is being added to the mix. Its effects will be visible for thousands of years to come. Nature, with its great creative power, has an amazing ability to heal itself. Heaven, earth, and people are transforming and restoring the landscape. Throughout history, we've been learning to coexist with nature, so that where we are becomes our connection with the universe. These magnificent landscapes not only hold the past, but also point to the future. What does the future have in store for them? The answer lies with humanity, as well as the forces of nature.